Welcome to our all Gaucho reunion and our State of our Community's Diversity Address. Racial injustice and violence and the disproportionate health and economic effects of COVID-19 continue to affect our diverse Gaucho communities. In these difficult times, we are reminded that our UC Santa Barbara principles of community are not just a value statement, but a call to action, to enact inclusion daily, and to stand up to injustice. Today, you will be hearing from campus leaders who are advancing our efforts to promote an environment of excellence and diversity, including Professor Belinda Robnett, our Vice Chancellor for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. The vision, leadership, and scholarship she brings to this vitally important position are an important asset in our work to improve campus climate and outcomes for the diverse Gaucho communities that we serve. We are committed to fostering an inclusive, supportive, and a safe environment for every member of our UC Santa Barbara community. We hope that as alumni, you will be inspired to stay connected with the areas of campus that are most meaningful to you and to support the students who follow in your footsteps. Thank you.
Well, we appreciate Chancellor Yang's support, and that's a great segue to our first speaker. So I'd like to invite to the virtual stage Dr. Belinda Robnett, our Vice Chancellor for Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and she'll be sharing the work that she has taken place in her office. So welcome, Dr. Robnett.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you, Chancellor Yang, for that wonderful introduction. I appreciate it. So it's an honor to be here. This, of course, is my inaugural year, and then is the inaugural year for the Vice Chancellor's office to really get off the ground. And so I wanted to share with you some of the activities that have taken place on the campus since I started in September. And we are all mindful of the fact that it's been very difficult for all of us over the course of the year. So much growth and awareness in terms of the horrors that have taken place with respect to racism, anti-Black racism, anti-Asian racism, attacks against many in the LGBTQ plus community. And so although there was a verdict in the Derek Chauvin case, guilty verdict verdicts on all counts, it does not solve our problems. It hopefully is the beginning and a start to our work to achieve racial justice. So with that, I'm just going to talk a little bit about what we've been doing on the campus to bring about diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice on the campus as well in our own backyard. So next slide, please. So in 2021, we are launching or have launched the UC Santa Barbara campus-wide diversity, equity, inclusion, and social justice initiative. This is a campus-wide initiative entitled Thriving Through Reform Together. Next slide, please. So the DEI office mission, my vision is to build a truly diverse and inclusive campus that fosters an environment where each member is empowered to bring their unique differences, points of view, and contributions to the university, where they will experience acceptance, respect, inclusion, and the support needed to achieve their full academic, personal, and professional potential. As was made clear at the 2020 Black Student Forum, that was organized by the UCSB Center for Black Studies Research. We must create a space where all voices are heard and where no one feels the need to edit their identity, much less render it invisible completely. Next slide. This vision is in keeping with that of the University of California mission. The system's mission is that, quote, diversity should be integral, and that's my emphasis, to the university's achievement of excellence, unquote. To do so, we must embrace this historic promise, quote, to recognize and nurture merit, talent, and achievement by supporting diversity and equal opportunity in our education, services, and administration, as well as research and creative activity, unquote. And we must, at the University of California, Santa Barbara, make it a reality. Next slide. So it's 2021. To what extent have we lived up to the mission? If what we've been doing is working, then why have there been so many Black Lives Matter protests on our UC campuses? Why do we still struggle to achieve diversity, equity, and inclusion? So however noble our vision, mission, or professed commitments, and even multiple programmatic implementations, the status quo will remain unless we forge a strategic plan that alters our daily practices, creates sustained institutionalized transformation, identifies immediate and long-term expected outcomes, fosters accountability through planning and assessment, and establishes milestones and timelines. And these milestones and timelines will be steered and influenced by community needs, input, and assessment. So this is a collaboration with stakeholders, and that's integral to my approach. So to that end, I'm going to get a little bit into the weeds, but I want you to know what's happening on the campus. So we're building the office to include business manager. We've onboarded DEI training so that it's available throughout the campus to train our faculty, to train our staff and our students on issues of diversity and equity. And I'll show a sample of some of our offerings. And so this is a core curriculum courses that people can earn a diversity education certificate. We're onboarding 3 associate vice chancellors, a project coordinator, data analyst, and we're going to be building teams in each unit for diversity officers that are dedicated to the needs of our graduate students, our faculty, our staff, and our undergraduate students. Next slide. So there were already graduate student diversity officers, but we have consolidated them into the office and offer training, resources, tools, workshops. And as I said before, we'll be onboarding other diversity officers as well. And these officers will be department leaders, advisors, advocates, catalysts for change, and institutional resources focused on infusing a DEI perspective into all programs and activities, tracking progress toward these goals and communicating progress to an engaged community, rather than having diversity and all of these issues just consolidated into one office. It needs to be in all things, from teaching and curriculum to mentoring practices, to deciding our budgets. These issues around diversity, equity, inclusion, and social justice must be integral to every aspect of university life. Next slide. So I have an executive advisory committee. I'm about to start and create standing advisory boards on, for example, the status of the APITA community at UCSB, Latinx, African American, as well as topical issues. A standing board on teaching and learning. I'll be partnering with undergrad division on that and others. And we also have a gender and COVID-19 task force because all studies show that women have been disproportionately impacted in terms of their professions and personal well-being during this pandemic. that will have long-lasting effects on career mobility. Next slide. So I mentioned that we have our diversity education certificate programs. We're building off of the Graduate Scholars Program. Some of you may have participated in that to build out a 5-year structured program targeted towards underrepresented racial ethnic minority graduate students, although all graduate students are welcome. And this is going to be sort of a 360 view of graduate school, professional, how to build a profession, networking, how to deal with microaggressions, and so on. And a similar type of a program for our assistant professors as well. And we are participating in NSF's I Aspire program, and this helps us to do these things by providing us and helping us with assessment tools and action plans. Next slide. We are creating an ally program with an emphasis on mentoring across difference. We're a campus participant in the R1 HSI, Hispanic Serving Institution Crossing Latinidad's consortium to help to build a Latinx pipeline into the professoriate. We also have the Action Collaborative, which is focused on sexual harassment and assault on our campus, and also we are working very hard to build out better child care facilities on the campus, as well as to continue with our Chancellor's postdoctoral fellowship program to increase the representation of underrepresented faculty within our ranks. Next slide. This is just a sampling of the, in order to earn the certificate, we're also requiring this training of our diversity officers, and we are strongly recommending that all of our faculty search committees, graduate admissions committees, undergraduate admissions committees, and I hope to work with HR so that everyone is receiving trainings on racial microaggressions and power and white privilege. Next slide. We're adding new courses every day. One on what does it mean to be anti-racist, bystander interventions. What do you do when you see something? How do you intervene? And with respect to the training of the faculty recruitment, undergrad and grad admissions, we're offering up coursework and step-by-step best practices from writing the recruitment ads to outreach to what you do when people come to interview, and so we hope to have people better educated and better able to meet the needs of our diverse campus. Next slide. This year, we have hosted an Anti-Blackness Difficult Dialogue series. We are poised to have our last speaker come on May 7th. This has been a really wonderful series that has highlighted many issues, historically rooted issues on anti-Blackness within the US. Okay, next slide. The campus has not had a campus climate survey since 2013. I know some of you out there are saying, yes, I took I don't know how many campus surveys, but this is with the idea of building an action plan, a strategic DEI social justice action plan for the campus to build in assessment tools, accountability. So this is going to inform that strategic plan as our standing advisory boards. Next slide. So the campus strategic action plan, this is for diversity, and so it's going to be driven by that survey, input from the advisory boards. Following the release of the strategic plan, which will come out in the early fall, there will be campus town hall meetings. I will be visiting and presenting this plan to each of the colleges, tailored to what the statistics show. And so that way each unit is aware of what their issues are, what the goals ought to be, and we are there to help them to meet their goals. Next slide. So the goal here, and not the goal, what we'll be doing is establishing metrics, accountability, best practices, programming. The DEI office will administer an annual assessment. So if a division says, or a department, I'm going to do X, Y, Z, next year, we want accountability. Did it work? Did you implement it? What are the outcomes? And that survey that I mentioned, Campus Climate, is going to be administered every 2 years. So that way we'll be able to measure progress. It's not enough to just say, well, we've implemented all of these things and then they don't work. We really have to hold ourselves accountable. And I'll say that again, we have to hold ourselves accountable. So each unit will have their survey results, plans to address the issues. They will need to provide us with that, and we'll be helping them to do that. We already have a workshop for unit level diversity, equity, and inclusion planning. And we will be providing data, training, and consultations. Next slide. And so I really wish and hope that you will partner with the DEI office. I hope that many of you out there will email me to set up a time. I would love to meet with you, to hear your perspectives, and to garner your participation in shifting the campus to be better. And to create an atmosphere where everyone feels a sense of belonging. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Robnett. We really look forward to continuing to share your work with the alumni community. I also just wanted to give a shout out in the audience. I know there are a number of staff folks on campus who have been supporting DEI efforts on campus outside of their 8 to 5 staff positions. I especially see a number of my colleagues who are working with our API community on campus in volunteer roles. So, thank you to Carol Huang, Joanne Villanueva Salvador, Shara Kashmi. I also see Carlos Nash in the audience. He's our director for graduate diversity programs. So again, just if I missed you in the audience, my apologies. I'm scanning really quickly to see who is here, but just again wanted to acknowledge that there are a number of folks on campus who are doing really great work as it relates to DEI on campus. So next up, I quickly wanted to introduce a couple of new staff folks. So from our Office of Black Student Development, virtually, Elroy Pinks is out working on the Black Family Reunion event that is happening in about 40 minutes. So if you are interested in hearing about the new Office for Black Student Development, if you want to hear about the work that he is doing within the office, you'll definitely want to jump in on the Black Family Reunion event. And Elroy is our new director of that office and also a UCSB alum. And I would like to invite Rosa Salamanca to hop on real quick. Rosa just started very recently, so I didn't ask her to put together a slide presentation. I just wanted to have her come on and say hello to the alumni community. So welcome, Rosa.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's really a pleasure to be here today. As Karen mentioned, my name is Rosa Salamanca, pronoun she, her, hers, and ella, and I am the new director for Undocumented Student Services. A little bit more about myself. I was born and raised in El Salvador, and I came to the United States when I was 16. I went to receive a BA in psychology and a BA in Central American Studies from California State University, Northridge, and I lived in Los Angeles for over a decade. Most recently, I am a student in a master's program for public administration at Sonoma State University. And I currently live in Northern California. We'll be relocating to Santa Barbara in the near future. Prior to coming to Santa Barbara, I was working as the Dream Center coordinator, providing support for undocumented students at Sonoma State University. And I also have about over 10 years of experience of working with undocumented families, undocumented students across the state of California. And it is my pleasure to be joining the Gaucho family, particularly supporting undocumented students. Through undocumented student services, we provide support services and resources for undocumented students and students of mixed status families. So thank you so much for inviting me, and it is a pleasure to be here today.
Thank you, Rosa. I'm really excited for our alumni on the call to hear about these new offices that were not in existence when many of our alumni were here on campus. So next up, we're gonna take it back to the very beginning, and we're gonna talk a little bit about admissions. So I would like to call up Cuca Acosta. She is an associate director in the Office of Admissions, also a UCSB alum, and she is here to share with you the work that admissions is doing to make sure that we are recruiting a diverse class of incoming Gauchos. So welcome, Cuca.
Thank you, Karen. Hi, my Gaucho family, mi familia, ¿cómo están? I'm so excited that you are joining us on this Saturday to learn a little bit more about UCSB's communities and what we're doing. So as the Office of Admissions, you're probably thinking, don't care, but you do. And here's why. There's ways for you to still be engaged in our community. And on the next slide, you'll see the one that's coming up is our open house event next week. Now, UCSB's open house is, yes, for our prospective students. So if you've got a junior or a freshman at a community college who wants to transfer, or if you just want to hang out and listen to a really cool faculty lecture, you'll find that there are over 30 events happening next week, April 26th through the 30th in the afternoon from 3 to 7 p.m., including things like guided virtual tours if you want to see campus again through our virtual tours. Y para mis latinos que están acá con nosotros, también en español tenemos presentaciones. Yes, we'll do Spanish presentations on financial aid, Spanish guided tours. Our goal is to make this as inclusive as we can. So, okay, fine, you don't want to do an open house, but note that this event happens multiple times so that when you've got family members who are ready to apply to UCSB, these are the ways that we showcase our diversity on campus. All right, so what if you do have a student who's working on workshops and trying to get help with the application? On the next slide, you'll see we have both freshman and transfer admission workshops, free to any student who wants to log on and ask for support. Some of our workshops include things like faculty panels, but also alumni showcases. Last week, we had an alumni showcase, and I was begging people to come and hang out with us and be part of the panel. What? You didn't know that you want to be involved? I would love to make sure that you are part of our next cohort of emails going out to alumni, of emails showcasing alumni, as well as opportunities to get to know and help us with the recruitment process. Because as much as we say we love UCSB, your success where you are today proves to our students who are deciding between multiple colleges and universities why UCSB might be the perfect place. We do workshops, we do presentations, all again on our website, admissions.ucsb.edu. But really, what about diversity? On the next slide, you'll see part of the University of California, Santa Barbara admissions process is holistic. We are allowed to look at academics, extracurriculars, so on and so forth. But Proposition 209 says, I cannot use ethnicity. I cannot use legacy. I cannot use gender. So what do I do? After admissions, once we do release those decisions, I can look at advocacy groups. And the Office of Admissions for 20 plus years has been working to create communities and to showcase UCSB to our African-American students, to our Chicano Latino students, to our Asian and API community, to our American Indian and Indigenous students. We do these advocacy efforts in the form of individual phone calls, email campaigns. In fact, on the next slide, what you're going to see is that one of our big plans is to include things like our sticker postcard campaigns that we emailed out so students can show their pride, our parents can show their pride. We have events this weekend, for example, which is our Color and Chill with our African-American diversity interns, our current students, reaching out to African-American admitted students. We have our chats, our pláticas con familia. These are through virtual platforms this year because of the pandemic, but note that we do these in-person events throughout the year, so you can get involved if you're interested. All right, so here's what you should note. One of our big things that we did with faculty this year was including our diversity guide with our professor, Jeffrey Stewart. And on the next slide, you're actually going to see we were able to secure funds to purchase slides and books of Jeffrey Stewart's brand new book, The New Negro, The Life of Alan Locke, and mail this to our admitted students, a select group of our African-American admitted students. And now he's going to do a lecture next week on the book to sort of give students an idea of what it means to be a UCSB student. Yes, this is exciting. This is amazing. We also are texting students with, opportunities, this and that, and so much more. So please be aware that our goal is to make sure students are looking at all these opportunities. They're able to connect with us. And if you're trying to think, oh, well, that's what, 5 or 6 students? No, on the next slide, you're going to see that UC Santa Barbara is popular. Yes, we have grown. We have grown in our numbers. For UC Santa Barbara, we received a 16% increase in our freshman applicants. You heard that right. UCSB received 105,000 freshman applications for the incoming class. At the transfer level, we also increased, yes, we did, 20,500 transfer applications. So this particular university is no longer a backup for anybody. We are students' first choice. We are competing with elite universities across the United States. Your degree has gained value. So help us as we recruit the next freshman class. I put into the chat box ways for you to send us your profile if you're interested. On the next slide, you'll see that we have social media campaigns. Our at UCSB Life showcases current students, organizations, clubs, and so much more. And if you ever have questions, don't hesitate to reach out at UCSB Admissions. On behalf of the whole admissions team, I'm Cuca, Acosta, su servicio. Thanks so much for building that partnership with us, and I'll turn it back over to Karen.
Woo! Thank you so much, Cuca. We've got alumni all over the world. We're really excited to get alums involved in the recruitment admissions process, as alumni's kids are getting ready to apply, their nieces and nephews and their neighbors' kids and their friends' kids. We want everyone to know what's happening at UCSB and how they can get in. So I'm really looking forward to continuing to partner with the admissions office to make sure that we are utilizing alumni. We're highlighting all of their successes so that admitted students can see how great our alumni are doing. So next up on our docket is Erin Jones, also a UCSB alum, director of the Educational Opportunity Program, as well as the interim director for the Multicultural Center. So welcome, Erin.
Good morning, everyone. Am I on, Karen?
Yes, we see you.
Perfect. All right. I am currently, my apologies, I'm currently at my son's football practice, so you have to excuse me. But it's great to be here. Welcome, everyone. I first want to echo Dr. Robnett's, Vice Chancellor Robnett's introductory remarks with regards to the state of our campus in terms of diversity, equity, inclusion. We are in a very pivotal time that we all know. And even after the verdict, there were still, I think, 6 killings of Black bodies just within a week after the verdict. So, although many of us who crave justice celebrate that victory, and as Keith Ellison said, it's not justice, it's accountability. We know that we have a long way to go. And EOP stands still firmly, as the slide says, since 1966 for 55 years. The one thing that I want you all to know is we are still here and we're not going anywhere. We have a methodology that works in supporting our students, and it's really appropriate to follow Cuca, because literally after students are admitted and submit their SIR, there's a soft handoff to us as EOP students. I mean, as EOP. through the admissions process, unlike the community college system where you have to apply to be a part of EOPS, with EOP through the admissions process, when students designate their status as being first generation, first in their family to go to college or university, and their income eligibility status, we automatically get a list from the admissions office as to who are EOP students. And we have a methodology that we know that works. We know the impact and the effect that we have on our students for their academic excellence. I won't even say success, their academic excellence. And that is, quite frankly, a very holistic approach. So it's also very fitting to follow Cuca's comments, because we carry that forward through our work with students all the way through to graduation. Specifically, as I mentioned, we've serviced first generation and income eligible students. As Cuca also mentioned, we can no longer use ethnicity or legacy as a criteria. For some of you may remember, as maybe as old as I am, EOP used to be in different components based on ethnicity, and 209 ended that. However, that being said, I think it actually made EOP that much better and more broad in our ability to impact our students. There are roughly about 35% of the student population, between 7,000, 7,500, depending on the total population of undergraduate students, are EOP students. That being said, and as a result of Prop 209, our services are open to any undergraduate student. So anybody can walk in the door and receive our holistic support. We also are responsible for the 5 cultural resource centers on campus. That's the American, Indian, and Indigenous Cultural Resource Center, the African Diasporic Cultural Resource Center, the Middle Eastern Cultural Resource Center, which is actually going to be undergoing a name change, the Asian Resource Center, which also may be undergoing a name change, and the Chicanx Latinx Cultural Resource Center. In addition, we are also responsible. Oh, see, I didn't even prompt that. You all are so good. I didn't make slides, y'all. Look at y'all. Look at y'all. Got my stuff right there. We're also responsible, the department responsible for the historic El Centro Andrufo Casillas, as you can see there as well, which is a vitally pivotal center for and source of community building for the entire community, but specifically and historically our Chicanx and Latinx communities. In addition as well, we also have the first peer mentor program. There's hundreds of peer mentors on campus. But EOP was the first, and we employ students to work as direct advocates and to work one-on-one with our students. I was a peer mentor as an undergraduate student at UCSB as well. I will say this just in closing with regards to EOP, and again, to kind of go back to the beginning of my remarks, the institution has an obligation to prioritize supporting holistically all our most marginalized students. And quite frankly, with the results of the pandemic and the cuts to the institution, some of you already know this. It's student affairs that always receives the deepest cuts when it comes to budgetary crises. And that pattern has been in place since I was an undergraduate student in 1989, and we are in it right now. So I'm asking you to continue to put pressure on the university to do what it rhetorically says it's going to do and to put their money behind it. Nonetheless, we remain steadfast in our work. As Karen also mentioned, I'm the acting director of the Multicultural Center. Zavini Khan Marcus, you're giving me a head, prompted me there. Zavini Khan Marcus retired after 33 years of service as the first and only director of the Multicultural Center. There was a search for a new director that ultimately was failed. The candidate that was selected ended up turning down the position. But this has given us an opportunity to kind of, as my mother would say, take a step back to take 2 forwards, to regroup, to really build community. It's been very, very challenging during the pandemic because the Multicultural Center really bases itself. Its bread and butter, the work is being able to come together as community, break bread, hug one another, see one another, and be in each other's presence. Yet and still, the dynamic team of professional staff as well as student staff have maintained some very, very diverse, provocative and powerful programming, even virtually. And we are continuing to be a safe space for our students. We hope to, in the near future, open a search again for a new director, and we also have an opening for a program coordinator. The MCC is in a little better position because it's almost entirely funded through student self-initiated fees. And we are student-centered, but also community-based. So with that, I thank you all for your time. You could see contact information there. My email could be found through the EOP website. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you so much, Aaron. Appreciate it. I know there's lots of folks in the audience who are EOP alums. We're excited to hear what's going on over there. So thank you. Next up, we have another UCSB alum, Dr. Malaphone Phommasa, Director of Academic Success Initiatives in the Office of Undergraduate Education. So welcome, Dr. Phommasa.
Thank you, Karen. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us all today. As Karen introduced, my name is Malaphone Phommasa. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the Director of Academic Success Initiatives in the Office of Undergraduate Education. But more personally, I am a proud daughter of Lao refugees and first-generation college graduate. Also an alumni of UCSB, earning my master's and PhD from the Gewurz Graduate School of Education in 2016. So really fortunate to have come back to UCSB. I work with two academic resource centers, the Onda Student Center and the Transfer Student Center. Both centers opened in 2016, so still very new on campus, and fortunate to have wonderful partnerships with many of the folks and departments on this panel today, and especially EOP. We've had incredible partnerships with EOP over the last 5 years, so it's really fitting that I'm following after Aaron. The Onda Student Center was founded with a Department of Education Title V grant when UCSB was granted its Hispanic Serving Institution designation in 2014. So this grant funded two main areas: a faculty development seminar to engage faculty in more equitable and inclusive teaching practices, and the Onda Student Center. So it's a brand new academic resource center housed in Kerr Hall, right by the bus loop. The center is designed to serve first-generation college students and minoritized student populations, but really open to all students, offering mentorship and academic support in a learning-centered space for students to connect with faculty, staff, and peers. Our main programs connect students to faculty outside of the formal classrooms, such as office hours in the center that students are in their own space, and the faculty come to the students, which is really awesome. And it draws crowds of up to 40 students in office hours, which is really, really what we want to see. And then also faculty mentoring dinners. We also have incredible graduate and undergraduate student leaders that develop student-centered programming and really provide the voice for our space. And if we can go to the next slide, please. So the Transfer Student Center was founded similarly once funding became available due to UCOP's renewed commitment to transfer students in the UC system in 2014. So a center that had been advocated for by students for so long finally opened in 2016. So both centers opened the same year. The TSC houses two full-time academic advisors from the College of Letters and Science who specialize in advising transfer students, and a rotating office where campus partners such as EOP, Career Services, and Education Abroad, to name a few, have held office hours just for transfer students. Some of our core programs are the Transfer Student Mentoring Program, connecting incoming transfer students with senior transfer students, Dining with Faculty, where students get to have 3 dinners over the course of the quarter to build relationships with faculty outside of the classroom, and Coffee and Community for first-generation transfer students, which has been one of our most popular programs, and it's a weekly space for folks who identify as first-gen and transfer to just build community with each other. Similarly to the OSC, we have an amazing team of graduate and undergraduate students who are all transfer students and love being a support to their fellow transfers. So really, transfer student support and services have definitely expanded at UCSB over the last several years, and it's amazing to see. So while the transition to remote learning, of course, threw us all a curveball, it also provided us with an opportunity to get creative in how we supported undergraduate students So developing the Keep Learning UCSB website as a resource for remote learning, coordinating the UCSB First Gen Community website, and then also grow and begin chapters of the Tau Sigma National Honor Society for transfer students and Tri Alpha National Honor Society for first generation college students. And fun fact about Tri Alpha Honor Society, it is open to staff, faculty, and alumni in addition to students. So we really hope to stay connected with any of y'all who are first gen alumni. That's it for me, but thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much, Malaphone. And last but not least, for our campus updates, I'd like to bring up Craig Leets, Director of LGBT Resources in our Resource Center for Sexual and Gender Diversity.
Good morning, everyone. Happy Saturday. I am not an alum, so I hope it's okay that I'm here presenting to you all today. My name is Craig Leets. I use he and him pronouns, and I serve as the director of our campus Resource Center for Sexual and Gender Diversity, which is our campus lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer center. The center is in the student resource building. I'm actually in it right now. There's more reliable internet here than I have at home. So coming to you actually from campus, which is maybe different than some other folks. Can we go to the next slide? So you can read a little bit here about what the RCSGD does, but really what we do is try and give our LGBTQ students all of the support that they need to be successful here during their time at UC Santa Barbara. I will share with you that we recently celebrated our 20th anniversary. Some of you may know or have been on campus for the origin story of our center. In the late 90s, I think it was 98, 99, students organized, they staged a walkout, and they held a sit-in in Cheadle Hall to get Chancellor Yang's approval for the Resource Center. At the time, the Multicultural Center existed and the Women's Center existed, but there was no specific resource on campus for LGBTQ students. And so students at that time said, we need this support from the institution. And then by the fall of 1999, we were open. The center was originally in the USEN, and then when the SRB opened in 2008, we have our center over here that we've been in since then. But we are so excited to celebrate our 20th anniversary, and we are looking forward to our 25th. Next slide. So as I mentioned, what we do in our center is support LGBTQ students to make sure that they are successful during their time on campus. Some of the ways we do that is employment. We currently have, I think we have 13 undergraduate students working with us right now and 2 graduate students, and we are doing our best to support our students during this time of remote instruction. Some of our students went back to homes where they're not out or where they might not have fully supportive families. And so they're really missing the community that they have when they're on campus. So we've been doing our best to try and provide that to them virtually. One of the main ways that we've done that is through our events. So we have over 70 events that we do every quarter, which is a mix of speakers, activists, small discussion spaces, drag shows, just a whole variety of things, really where we're trying to promote a really vibrant LGBTQ community on campus. When we are together on campus, we have a lounge that students can spend time in between classes, group projects, do homework. It's bustling in here. We also provide resources to students to help them navigate the university. We provide one-on-one support and advocacy, whether they're experiencing bias on campus or need help navigating healthcare or are managing a roommate issue. Those are ways that we try and support our students. We have 2 programs that are highlights of our center, a volunteer program, which we currently have 13 students who are committed to volunteering for the center, even during this time of remote instruction, and then a mentorship program where we pair undergraduate LGBTQ students with either a faculty, graduate student, or staff mentor to help them with advice on navigating the institution, professional development, and career advice. We also work closely with our student organizations. We have over 10 LGBTQ student organizations on campus, which include La Familia de Colores, Black Queer, Queer and Trans, Asian Pacific Islander, Desi Americans, queer and trans community, just a whole bunch. So we try and work closely with them to provide that welcoming community on campus. And then we do education for faculty, staff, and students who want to learn more about the LGBTQ community. So on the final slide that I have, just wanted to give you an idea of some of the exciting events that we do. So as I mentioned, drag shows, maybe during your time on campus, drag is really important here at UCSB. So we start off the year with the Into the Night drag show. Historically, La Familia de Colores has done a Halloween drag show. Queer and Trans Community does a Winter Wonder drag show, and then Trans and Queer Commission does one for Pride. We've been really fortunate to have some really amazing celebrities come to campus and get to know our students. So hopefully many of you are familiar with the show Pose on FX, but MJ Rodriguez, who plays the main character Blanca, came to campus in February of 2020, right before the pandemic started. So that was a really wonderful event to get in before we all ended up going home. And then this year virtually, we've had two folks from HBO Max's Legendary. If you do not know that show, I highly encourage you to check it out. If you have HBO Max, the second season is starting within the week. And we had two folks coming. It is a show that's based on ballroom, which is something that was very important, particularly in Black, queer, and trans communities during the late 80s and early 90s. And then finally, we've had some really amazing activists who we've brought to campus in partnership with the Multicultural Center, including Romy Torrico, who is an undocumented LGBTQ artist, and Sean Seifelwall, who we just had this week, who's an intersex activist. So we're doing our best to provide a really welcoming, vibrant LGBTQ community for our students. And we're always looking for alums to get involved and get connected with our students. So find us at our website and please contact me if you can get more involved. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Craig. I'll have to say one of the benefits of being virtual is being able to do multiple things from home. So on Thursday night, I was watching the alumni drag show on YouTube at 8 p.m. from my couch, while I was also on Zoom watching the Associated Students election results. I was able to do all that from my couch. So again, really want to thank all of our participants today for all the great work you're doing. Please know that this is just the briefest snapshot of all of the work that is happening on campus. I knew what everyone was going to say today, and I'm still bursting with pride for all of the great work that we have going on campus. And I'm really excited to continue working with our alumni communities and really getting them involved in the work that our colleagues on campus are doing. We are running out of time. So really quickly, next slide, I just wanted to share that one way that you all in the alumni community can get involved is to join us on gauchonetwork.com. This is a digital networking platform that's similar to LinkedIn, but it's just for UCSB. There's a mobile app that you can download where you can connect with alumni and students by identity, by location, by industry. So this is a really great way for alumni to give back through sharing their career and professional experience. So you can get started there at gauchonetwork.com.